rotten and it stinks to high heaven. And we've all got to understand what it's going to take to extricate ourselves from this mess. We've got to think differently. All of us have to be very introspective, very circumspective, and go inside and understand what's happened here. Okay, understand that the problems we have today ought not be. If society was making any progress, we wouldn't have the ever-growing homeless population out there, or just even maintaining this homeless population. Okay, we wouldn't have that, because if you go back to the Great Depression in this country, okay, we still, people stuck together in Hoovervilles and they demanded, hey, I have a right to exist. I'm an American. So they got by rivers where they could wash their clothes likely and, do the things it took to live while they went out and looked for miscellaneous odd jobs and work of every sort that they could do to survive. So all they had to trade was their labor. And this is the same state today. But the only reason that we don't see it as much now, and we don't talk about it as much now, even though the problem is probably every bit as bad or worse, because there's no progress being made in terms of your cost of living, your taxes, and all this stuff, is that it's diffused. Not defused, but diffused. In other words, it's spread out. So they've broken everybody up. They keep persecuting the homeless and the poor as if these are bad people. Somehow these are degenerates. These are immoral people. And the thing to do is just drive them out of your town as best you can. You get your local rogues, your thugs to do the dirty work, and you got a problem with them sleeping in front of your businesses and all this and crapping outside in public. I mean, what do you expect people to do? You treat them like animals. That's how they behave. But they get beat up. They get killed regularly, and they perish out in the heat. They perish out in the cold. This is a matter of fact. I'm not being hyperbolic. That's just, you look up the statistics of how many people die out in the cold every year. And among them, a lot of veterans. And these are mostly all native sons and daughters. I don't hear immigrants. They're tough. They're the surviving class. They come here, young, strong immigrants, and determined. They come, very hungry from lands where it's very difficult for anybody to get ahead. So they find it easy. They don't mind. They pay the high rents. As long as I get a good job, I'll pay those exorbitant rents. And so you see what that does to the weaker natives, okay? We're all just links in a chain of humanity, okay? And it's not bad to be a weak link. You're still a link. You're worthy of respect and admiration and love, okay, to keep your dignity, okay? And, the most important thing is that we've got to see things the way that he sees things. Who am I talking about? The Almighty Creator, God Almighty. Male and female. God created us in his image and likeness. Are we not male and female? Of course we are. We need the male and the female to procreate. It's a very beautiful cosmic thing God did here. Look how he made it feel so good. You know what I mean? He knew that, by giving this command to go forth and be fruitful and multiply, he knew that we were going to do it because he made it feel so good. And it's the same way with all God's commandments. When we understand that loving him above all else is the key, and then go forth likewise, equally key is to love one another, which means caring about others and treating those people the way we want to be treated, and being very honest, ruthlessly honest with who? With ourselves, because this is our connection, our umbilical cord to the Most High God. He's the one. He's the giver of joy and happiness and contentment and all good things, gladness of heart, a clear conscience, nobility of character, your integrity, everything good, every single good quality, characteristic, and attribute comes from above. So it's important to take this very seriously and be sober-minded people, and really, above all, try to please God. And if you do that, you will find happiness, even if you struggle in this life. And believe me, folks, I'm as human as they get. I struggle so much. There's so many things I would still love to overcome. Okay, I've got issues. Yes, I want to escape just like everybody else out there in their right mind. Like, Michael Tessarian, he gets into this. Some of the people that seem the craziest out there, they're actually the most sane because they're the ones that see through it. Like that movie. What's it called? I haven't even seen it, but I've seen enough clips. They Live. He's got the glasses on, and, he can see all the demonic people out there, and maybe a lot of these people don't even know that they're demonic. Okay, and that's key to understand too, but they are by virtue of their beliefs or lack of beliefs, believing in the wrong things, trusting in the wrong things, having faith in the wrong things, the things of this world, the temporal things, the things of the flesh, the carnal things, the worldly things. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. And anybody that's got overly invested in those things, and this is what's lighting them up, like Jesus said, he says, be sure the light within you is not actually darkness. This is the propensity that human beings have. This is the inclination we have, is that we can be deceived. And, it's not a bad thing if I say, hey, you know what, you might be deceived. Nobody should be offended or feel insulted by that, because being deceived merely means believing a lie. Any of us are subject to doing that. The main thing we don't want to be is a deceiver. Those are the ones that really are buying a ticket on the highway to hell, okay? Because these are the blasphemers, these are the ones committing sin that's unforgivable. When you deceive others deliberately, you know the truth, and you're going to spread deliberately the lies and try to pull people into your fold, you're in bad shape. But just being deceived is not that bad. But the trick is, I don't want to live like a mushroom, right? And you got to come out of it. Come out of Babylon. Come out of confusion. Come out of ignorance and say, I get it, doggone it. I want to be free. So what must I offer all of humanity? Freedom. The captives must and will be set free according to the Bible. Okay, this is what's written. And God's will always comes to fruition at his appointed time, not at our time. We're going to struggle. We're going to have hardship. We're going to have things that are going to hurt our spirits. And when I hear these wars and all this, children being killed and injured, and it's just so horrible. I don't know how I can cope. 22 veterans a day purportedly killing. It's killing me, okay? It's killing me. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with the mainstream media not confronting the national debt, saying, how are we going to get this paid off? What are the implications? What are the ramifications of this ever-growing, perpetual national debt, states' debts, individual debt out there? It can't end well. The dam's gonna break. It's science. It's factual. Okay, that's the way it works. So don't let them just, with the Band-Aid, it's kind of like pulling off a Band-Aid. You want to do it quick, you know what I mean? And that's it. You let it collapse, like it used to be with the Great Depression. Well, it all just collapsed. We want to, let's default on the loan. Did what Iceland did. And they're sitting pretty now. Yeah, they just pulled the Band-Aid off. These people aren't going to let that happen. They're just going to let the poor get poor, suffer more, and then they're going to be looking for more blood, so they're going to go up the ladder. So you're going to see that wealth disparity grow. Anybody in California that's a homeowner, they're the well-to-do ones, and they might be really struggling to pay their mortgage. Believe me, I got a sister in Eureka, and she's having a hell of a hard time paying a mortgage on a house she bought for $50,000, but she refinanced it, and she lost her husband. She's had financial hardships her whole life, but she's struggling to pay this crummy little note. Most people are paying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times what she's paying, and some of them are having a real hard time. We've lost a majority of home ownership in California. We're probably the first state, I'll bet you money, that we're the first state that that did this. So we're setting a really bad trend. This ever-growing wealth disparity, there's evidence right there, because this is the greatest measure of prosperity, is home ownership. Once you lose that, it's just rentalship. You're a perpetual serf. That's it. What can you do? You'll never be an owner. It gets more and more hopeless for people. And how is this going to end well? How is this good? Where does it end? Where does it stop? So they're going to keep taking more money out of your pocket, because you got to subsidize the industry, okay? The Section 8, the welfare, the social welfare industry. That's all been, intentionally foisted on us, because this is a plan. If you look at the Cloward and Piven strategy, they say, we give them some crumbs. It's the Marie Antoinette, let them eat crumbs. So, but they're, who's getting rich in this whole equation is the landlords. I'm sorry, not all of them. I know there's a lot of landlords that got in late in the game and they're really struggling, and they have problems with tenants. I see a lot of court cases. I watch court TV, and I see all the problems that landlords have with their tenants. And tenants should, if you agree to do something, then you've got to do it. I mean, or else you're going to be held financially accountable. So before you sign on the line, you ought to really, do your bartering up front. Do your negotiating up front with your landlord. But, that's not beside the point. But there's a lot of very well-to-do landlords that got in this thing early, like Rich Dad, that bought up oodles and gobs of real estate. And these people, a huge chunk of their change comes from the government through these Section 8 subsidies, these Section 8 payment vouchers, okay, that goes in their pockets. And this exacerbates the problem. Why? Because that's what happens. Landlords say, hey, you know what? The government's paying this. I'll raise my rent. And it's not even going to hurt the tenant. It hurts the government, nameless, faceless government, bureaucrats and all this. What do I care about them? I pay my taxes, but you see, it's making you have to pay your taxes. All this stuff is a chain reaction that's happening here. One thing leads to another. If you've got a commodity like housing, this essential human need commodity, and nobody can deny that, this is shelter. This is what every creature seeks, is shelter. Even a bird seeks its nest. A fox has its holes, right? But you understand that this is something we can't get away from. And this is what I personally find so utterly objectionable, is that we've allowed this to happen. All of us have been deluded. We've all been under a trance, mesmerized by these corrupt, lying, cheating, stealing, deceptive rulers and the media minions that go along with it sycophantically because they need a paycheck. That's why people keep doing what they do. They need a paycheck. If you solve the problems, there's going to be no job for you if you work in the prison industry. If you end poverty, you understand, even though it'd be dramatically cheaper for humanity, for your taxes would go down if we ended poverty. Do you understand? People wouldn't need raises at work. They wouldn't need a cost of living adjustment. These New World Order cabal and their minions couldn't get all these dubious wars started, okay? They couldn't do it. They couldn't get the support. If a guy is wanted here and there and in the next place, he says, you know what? I'm more interested in doing these things, okay? Because I don't have a lot of faith in this war you're trying to start over there, whatever the case may be. But we don't need 22 guys a day killing themselves here. I can't contend with that, okay? That's no way, okay? So I'm not okay with the way things are headed in this country. And I'm okay with telling the world that. And whoever doesn't like to hear it, tough, you're going to hear it. And this debt, okay, remember I pointed out in the last video about how, you buy a house for $100,000 and you pay it over 30 years, you're going to pay $250,000. If you pay $200,000 for a house, you're going to pay $500,000 over 30 years for that house. Okay, that's supposing you don't refinance it. If you do refinance it, you're going to pay even more than that. So you get what I'm saying? When we're talking about perpetual debt, we're talking about never paying it off. We're talking about you being slammed with an enormous mortgage, an ever-growing mortgage. That's the debt mortgage I'm talking about. And it's just going to grow and fester in perpetuity. That means forever. And it's going to get passed on to your kids and their kids, and our problems are just going to get more and more acute, worse and worse. Okay, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen until we put our foot down, we the people, and demand sound money. As far as this presidency thing goes, the most important thing Donald Trump can do is do what JFK tried to do. He was abolishing the Federal Reserve. He was going to supplant them with these silver certificates, these silver notes, okay? People need to be educated about this. And that was plenty enough incentive for these key people to take his life. They didn't need any more incentive, like he was against the wars in Indochina and all this kind of stuff. Whatever it was, okay, that was plenty enough incentive alone, was that he was going to extinguish the Federal Reserve bankers, because it's a private group, it's a cabal, that's what they are. This idea that they're federal is absurd. They're no more federal than the delivery service. But yet we think of them as a government agency, and most people now at least understand it's not even really a quasi-governmental agency. It's a private group of bankers. It's the kind that Andrew Jackson despised, okay? And he almost got killed for it too. Okay, this is the kind of people they are. So the best thing, if he got elected president, Or even Hillary, say she becomes president. Turns out she's actually a good soul and she wants to do something for the people. She's really an egalitarian. She's not a socialist or a communist or a totalitarian gun grabber out there. So maybe she's a good gal and she does something good. But this is the best thing anybody can do for this country, is to attack the Federal Reserve bankers and say, no, we're going to have sound money. And the evidence for sound money is that it steadily increases in worth. That's it. It steadily increases in worth. And that's how the captives are set free. Do you understand how that works?